You know what time it is and you already know the deal. This is The Real for Real with Kevin, Trevor, and Isaiah, bringing the realest, most in-depth perspectives on the film industry. So get ready, get set, and let's get into the show.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Kevin at The Real for Real podcast, and today I have a special guest with me here to talk about the legacy of his father and a true story behind the film By Any Means that comes out September 4th. Please welcome Dennis Dahmer. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine today. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. It's a blessing to have you on here. Definitely the most important guest that we've ever had on here, so it's a pleasure.
Oh, really? Well, I'm on it then.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of introduce what we're talking about, and then I'm going to give you the floor. So Dennis is a son of civil rights activist Vernon Dahmer, who was murdered because he believed black people in Mississippi should be able to exercise one of the most basic rights of American citizenship, and that's the right to vote. In 1966, members of the KKK attacked and firebombed his family's home after Dahmer has spent years helping black people in Mississippi register to vote, even offering to pay their poll taxes himself. He ended up suffering devastating burns while defending his family and died shortly afterward. And his message from his hospital bed was simple: if you don't vote, you don't count. Now, here we are 60 years later, and his story is coming back into the national conversation, but not necessarily in the way his family wanted. See, Paramount's By Any Means draws from events surrounding the investigation that followed Vernon Dahmer's murder, but his family argues that Hollywood has taken a story fundamentally about black resistance, voting rights, racial terrorism, and shifted the focus toward lesser-known figures surrounding the investigation. And when the Dahmer family asked Paramount for something as simple as a prologue telling audiences who Vernon Dahmer actually was and why he was killed, they say that request was rejected. So today I'm joined by his son, Dennis Dahmer, because I don't want to just talk about what Hollywood may have gotten wrong. I want to talk about what Vernon Dahmer was fighting for, what it meant to be a black voter in Mississippi in 1966, what his family endured because of that fight, and why the words, if you don't vote, you don't count, still deserves our attention in 2026. So, before we get into this movie, I want people to understand your father as a man. Who was Vernon Dahmer, and what do you think gets lost when history reduces him, just kind of just as a civil rights martyr rather than explaining the work he was actually doing?
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about my dad and this upcoming movie. Now, my dad, Vernon F. Dahmer Sr., that's Dahmer. Your listening audience can word search his name online. He's not as well known as some of the other civil rights martyrs, but my dad was a grassroots organizer in South Mississippi, starting out probably in the 40s through the 50s, up through the 60s, until he was murdered by the Klan. Okay. My dad was a person that believed that everybody deserved to be treated fairly and equally, because everybody was a taxpayer. So if you're a taxpayer, you deserve all the rights that anybody else has got, and that including voting. And voting is the thing that he really advocated for. Okay? As a result of his advocacy, that put him at odds with segregationists, racist type Klansmen that I refer to as cluckers. Okay?
Okay.
because of what he stood for, and he was open about it. Okay, he was open about it. He was president of the local branch of the NAACP back in probably I'm gonna say the late 50s, probably again in the 60s, which was a very dangerous position to hold in Mississippi, and to be outspoken about it, where everybody knew it. he was one of what they referred to as a card-carrying member. Carried the card in his wallet. He advocated for other people to join the NAACP. Hell, he even advocated for white business people to join. Of course, that didn't go over too well with him. But he based the argument upon economics. You know, you're making money off black folks. The better these black folks do economically, the more money they got to spend with you. And that ought to be enough right there to make you join the NAACP, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But obviously some of them didn't want to hear that. So he pushed for that for years. And as I mentioned, it brought him into conflict with these Klansman type people and also other whites who were business people. So during those years, in particular the 60s, he was harassed by the Klan. Physically, I'm talking about. They would do things like drive by the country store that he owned, shoot the windows out, early hours of the morning. They'd drive by, shoot the mailbox up early in the morning. They would do other forms of harassment. One of them that I remember is we had this old house on our place that we used to store hay in for the cattle. That house was mysteriously burnt down. I believe it's probably the Klansmen that did that set it on fire. So constant harassment was something that the Klan did. They would call the house looking for him. Most time my dad's not there because he owned and operated several businesses. So my mother would answer the phone and they would leave messages like, well, you tell that N-word, we're going to kill it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So as long as they were actively harassing my dad, we maintained armed guards 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We lived in a rural, isolated farming community. My dad was a cotton farmer. He planted out of cotton, about 200 acres. Okay? So we knew that if they were to do something, it would be us against them. So we were a heavily armed family. My older brothers were his security force. So my dad didn't go anywhere alone. If he went to town on business, some of them older sons with him, everybody armed. You know, make sure you don't get shot in the back of the head. I'm 12 years old when this happened. So I have a vivid memory of a lot of incidents that took place during that time. So that's who he was, that kind of person.
Wow. It's crazy because your father was killed because people understood the power of the black vote. And so nearly 60 years later, we're still debating who has access to that vote. So I kind of want to start in 1966. When we say your father was helping black people vote in Mississippi, I don't think the younger generation always understands what that meant. So what were black people in Mississippi actually confronting when they tried to register to vote, economically, physically, however you want to get into it?
Okay. So this is 1960s Mississippi. Segregation is the way of life. The civil rights movement is starting to gain traction in the early 60s. So one of the things that the activists and my dad pushed for was voting rights, because they knew if black people got the right to vote, that we can make a lot of changes in terms of who was being elected to office. Back then, you get all these segregationists, racist type politicians who basically ran on the platform of I can keep my foot on the neck of them N-words better than whoever they running against. So vote for me. So you have to understand, during that era, we're talking about a time where there were thousands of black people that lived in Forest County. Okay. I want to say the population in Forest County during that time, probably still today, was at least a third black. Okay.
Okay.
So you're talking probably 7,000, 8,000 or more black people. Out of that, there's only about 5 or 6 that are registered to vote. Okay. So the way that process worked, uh, first of all, black folks are being intimidated to don't even try to register to vote by whites. But if you got your nerve up and you say, well, I'm going to go down here and try any doggone way, because legally you could vote. It's just the fear and the intimidation
Mm-hmm.
from the white community that kept most black folks from going down there. So the first thing you had to do was pay this poll tax for the right to even attempt to register, with no guarantee you're going to be registered. So that poll tax fee was like $2. People today say, well, that ain't a whole lot of money. Here again, this is 1960s Mississippi. Average black person in the South working on somebody's farm as a laborer or some menial job. You know, if they made $5 a day, that was a lot of money. So black people know, hey, I only make $5 a day, and I'm gonna go down here and spend $2 to pay this poll tax, and I know they ain't gonna let me register to vote. So say you came up with the money, you paid it, you determined. You go in, you got to fill out an application. Okay. And then that application is going to be reviewed by this registrar of voters. In this case, Forest County, this big white guy looked like a Southern sheriff, Theron Lynn, the cigar in his mouth. I remember him as a small kid. I do remember him. And so he looks at your application. He finds any errors on that, he's going to reject you for that. Then this is how they really got it, black folks. He'd give you a clause out the Constitution, a law or something, and say, read this and tell me what it means. Now mind you, we got black people going down there who are school teachers, okay? They're dentists, they're pharmacists, they're in college. Some of them starting to teach on the college level. So you got people that's well educated. So you go in there and you read it and you tell him what it means. And his answer was, well, you got it wrong. And it's completely subjective. There's no appeal. You got it wrong. So I'm not going to register you to vote. You have to come back later, try it again. All right. But by you just doing that now, the white community is aware of the fact that you tried to register to vote. So if you're working somewhere, that white person you're working for might fire you. Or at the very least, you're going to be talked down to by them as if you're a child. You don't need to worry about that. That's not something you need to be involved in. And then they got these threats embedded in it. You don't want to do that because all kind of bad things could happen to you. Okay? So everybody know what that meant. Okay? So that's what my dad was up against. So when President Johnson, signs the Civil Rights bill in 64. Things start to change. Then he changed his Voting Rights Act. Then he signs his Voting Rights Act in 65, the very one that they're butchering today.
Yep.
Yeah, the Supreme Court is, eviscerating that very act. So my dad makes it known that any black person that wants to go and register to vote, because the law has been passed again saying that you can vote. This register of voters is now under a federal court order telling him he has got to register black people. You can't do no more of these shenanigans about interpreting clauses out the Constitution. But black folks know it's still going to be a big risk just going down there. And then there's the financial burden. So my dad made it known. Say, look, if you're willing to go down, I'll pay the $2 poll tax for you. In fact, my dad had set up an agreement with the sheriff and tax collector where he could collect that $2 poll tax in this country store we had. And my dad could turn the money in for them. And that was done to help people start the process. Because just the mere fact, if you went down to that courthouse and you walked up them steps going in there and these white folks standing around under this big oak tree that used to be there, this bench would be full of them every day. They stand out there watching to see who's going up in the courthouse and what they doing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that fear and intimidation is there. And it's real because things could happen. You could lose your job. You might get run out of town, okay? So my dad would go with them down to the courthouse. He was well known by everybody. Folks that liked him, really folks that didn't like him. He knew exactly who Vernon Dahmer was. And he'd go in there with them to register. Or he'd send somebody else. Maybe my older brothers would go with them as security, and to reassure them, hey, we're going to be here with you because we know how these people operate. So that's the type of world that existed in Mississippi during that time. Fast forward to today, ain't nobody standing around outside the polls trying to intimidate you outside the registrar's office. Ain't none of that taking place, okay? You just have to have the motivation to get up and go do it. And the problem we have, especially in the black community today, is voter apathy. A lot of people don't see the value in it. They don't truly understand how that process impacts their lives every day. They don't, okay?
Right.
And if they are tuned out, and a lot of our people are tuned out, they don't pay attention to anything, especially politics-wise or in the news. They only focus on what has value to them.
Very true. Yep.
The things that's going on today, if that don't motivate you that, hey, I need to get up and get myself registered and go vote in November, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't.
I don't either. Yeah.
But, and I'm going to say this last thing about them and shut up. The only reason this guy that's in the White House is there today is because of voter apathy. Over a third of the people that could have voted in the last presidential election did not vote for anybody. They didn't vote. And if more of those people had been in the voting column, Harris would be president today. Not this guy, and we wouldn't be going through all this crap that's taking place. A lot of those people that's sitting in Congress, if we had been voting the way we could have voted, they wouldn't be in office. And we wouldn't have to deal with that. Trump wouldn't have won the first time if folks that went and voted the way we could have. And he never would have been able to stack the Supreme Court the way he did and these other federal benches now. Hey, so it's time for our folks, because we're the ones that's going to suffer more than any other group. Quit making excuses. Understand what's going on. Don't look at it. Don't listen to all this negative stuff you hear on the internet about voting. Get yourself registered. Go vote. And if you've been voting, you ain't voted in a while, you better check and make sure your name is still on the active voters list, because they purging people off that list as fast as they can. So
Yeah.
I hope that answered your question there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And while you were on that topic, I was thinking about your representative Benny Thompson and how he stood up against Trump. That was big.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, Bennett Thompson has been, as he likes to say, I represent all the people in Mississippi who don't have a voice in Washington, whether they live in my district or not. He said, I represent all of them, okay? Because I'm going to do what I can to help them. So Mississippi is a state that's at least 40% black. We got the highest black population in this state than any other state. Next year, they're going to redraw all these districts. They're going to draw him out through voter dilution. They're going to draw out a lot of black state elected officials in the House and the Senate. Then you're going to see it done locally for like education boards, boards of supervisors, judges, whatever, mayors. Hey, the number of black left elected officials in the South is fixing to decrease dramatically. And it's going to take us a while to get it back, you know, but we have got to start voting. We have got to do that.
100%. So your father, I mean, he famously offered to pay poll taxes for people who couldn't afford them. So
sure.
Just briefly, if you could explain what made voting so threatening to this white power structure that helping black citizens register was ultimately going to put a target on his home and his family, right?
Well,
which is where we're at. Which is
hey, the numbers I'm quoting you about the black population in the South and Mississippi in particular, these white politicians know this. They know it. And they know they're on the verge of losing right now in statewide elections. I'm telling you, if black folks were to start going to vote in Mississippi, the way they voted for President Obama the last time he ran and better, you take that number, combine it with the white crossover vote that you have now that didn't exist in the 60s, we're going to start electing a bunch of Democrats statewide, starting at the governor's office, coming on down. And some of them Democrats going to have a black face. Okay? So here again, our folks just need to wake up, educate yourself, then inform others. Stop with the doggone excuses. Okay?
Yep.
Over 55% of black folks in America live in the old Confederacy, in this deep South. So we can change a lot of stuff. You see what's going on up there in the Carolinas. Okay? All right? You see what's going on in Georgia. Okay? They can change stuff in Georgia. That lady was running over there, Bottoms, Keisha Bottoms, I think it is.
Yeah.
She can win.
Yeah.
You know, if she can turn out black folks just right there in Atlanta. Right there in Atlanta.
That's right. Yep.
You know, so it's time for us to get focused, because these people are playing for keeps. They got things like this shield law they put in place in Mississippi to make it difficult for people to vote. You know, if they question the validity of who you say you are at the polls, they want 2 forms of ID, you know, and it'll make it tough for you.
I'm glad you mentioned that, 'cause that's something I was thinking about, because the methods have obviously changed. We're not talking about literacy tests administered by segregationists anymore, right? But when you're looking at voting today, what concerns you the most about the modern barriers that Mississippi is facing on who participates and whose political voice carries power?
Uh, they, being MAGA Republicans, they have control in the state legislature, okay, because of gerrymandering on these districts that they've drawn over the years. So they're writing in all kinds of laws that they know that it would be difficult for the average Black person to meet. You may have to have 2 forms of identification. And then we're going to be restrictive about that. It's going to have to be a driver's license. It's going to have to be a birth certificate. Or it's going to have to be a passport. I mean, how many Black folks walk around with passports? A lot of Black people don't drive. They ain't got no driver's license.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So that's the game they're playing now. And they want to give you the impression that somehow or another there's this massive voter fraud or the potential of a massive voter fraud. So we got to have a certain type of ID to know who you are. That bill came up in the legislative. One of the Black senators was questioning this MAGA Republican who put it up. And I think it's something like 1.7 million voters or something like that in Mississippi. So the Black legislature had to say, look, how many instances have y'all documented of actually somebody trying to vote who wasn't supposed to be voting? His answer was 15. 15 out of 1.7 million. So this Black legislature drills down on the 15. Come to find out, a lot of them just checked the wrong box on the form. So it ain't even 15. Okay. Yeah. But they're about doing everything they can to keep likely Democratic voters from voting. And if you hadn't figured it out yet, I'm a Democrat. I'm a proud Democrat. And you see all these arguments online that make no sense at all if a person takes this time to inform himself. These MAGA people, well, the Democrat Party in the 1800s, they were behind slavery and they the ones started the Civil War. Yeah. And, they're the ones in the early 1900s that did all this segregation, Jim Crow stuff, da-da-da-da. And my response to them is, what year do you live in? I live in 2026.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
And I know who's working for me in 2026. And I'll tell any of them, especially the Black ones, spouting this stuff. I believe a lot of them are paid to do it. And some of them probably never taken the time to truly inform themselves. Go to your local Democratic meeting once a month. See who's sitting up in there.
That's right.
Okay? Yeah, just go in there and look. See who's in leadership. Chairman of the Democratic Party in the state of Mississippi is Black. Okay?
That's
you go on chairman of the Forest County Committee, Black female, college educated, college professor. You go in there, you're going to see everyday Black people sitting up in there, working in trades. You're going to see preachers. You're going to see retired teachers. Okay? And that room probably going to be at least 75% Black. So I don't know what the hell these people are talking about.
Okay? I believe just kind of like you said, some people are paid online to do that kind of stuff, and some people just don't know history and when the party flip any of that. It's ridiculous.
Right. But it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Our people have to be better informed to be able to discern between what is valid and what is just a bunch of political rhetoric. Okay? And if my dad was alive today, this would be the message that he would be carrying to voters, in particular black voters. You know, I think about folks like my dad, Medgar Evers, 3 civil rights workers in Philadelphia, other ones that were killed. A lot of black folks were killed, had nothing to do with civil rights. They were just black and in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these cluckers decided they want to kill somebody black to try and intimidate and terrorize the rest of black folks, okay? If those folks were around today, I can imagine some of the things that they would be saying about what the hell are we doing, folks? You know, we didn't put it all on the line for us to just throw our hands up, frustrated, develop a defeatist attitude, okay? You know, because things were tough in the 60s. Black folks didn't always win in the 60s and the stuff that they were doing. Go back and study what happened in 1964 when the Democratic Party went to their national convention in Atlantic City, and it was challenged by this group known as the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. If you don't know what that is, you need to pull it up and read that history. That was the beginning of the end for these old Dixiecrats, boll weaver Democrats, these racist segregationists. Black folks didn't win that day, but they put the handwriting on the wall that we're gonna join this party, and they purposely picked the Democratic Party because that's the one that's giving them all the hell, electing all of these racist segregationist people. So black folks forced their way up in that party, took control of it, and used that same party to start electing black folks. And today in Mississippi, I think it's still true. You got more elected black officials per capita than any other state in America. And they're all Democrats. And it's all because of that black vote. Okay? They put them in there. Then all these other ones left, went to the Republican Party. And today, they're known as MAGA Republicans. Okay?
That's right. Yeah.
That's who they are.
Straight up. I wanted to ask you something, not to get us too far off, but I wanted to see if you could explain the conflict the NAACP had with your father working with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, because I know the ideologies were different. Do you think that the SNCC was too radical for them at the time, or?
Well, here again, you got to understand that era. We're talking about, 40s, 50s, and 60s Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Black folks are being killed, okay, by these racists on a regular basis. They're doing it, okay? So the NAACP typically were people like my dad, independent business types, somebody that didn't have to depend upon the white power structure for their income.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, you had a lot of them that were members in secret who maybe taught school. They couldn't be as outspoken. But the ones like my dad, they business people, they preachers, church paying him. Okay? Black church paying him. Or they got some way of maintaining themselves. So they could be in the NAACP. See, the NAACP was the only organization in the state of Mississippi for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
These other organizations wouldn't come here. It's a very dangerous place. Very dangerous place. So these people like my dad, they had a tendency, they're conservative. Okay, they understand what we're up against. We're trying to change this system primarily through the ballot box by elected officials. We know what can happen to black folks. We done seen it. So I wouldn't say it was as much of a conflict with the activists when they came to Mississippi as most people probably want to think it might have been. Because if you take a look, who was actually supporting them in these communities? Meg Evers, state director of the NAACP. Okay?
Okay.
Vernon Dahmer, Forest County chapter, NAACP. C.C. Bryant, president of the Amite County, Macomb chapter. I can't call the other guy up in the Delta. All right, so these are all NAACP guys. Aaron Henry, okay? I don't see the conflict as being as much with them locally as it might have been with the national office.
Okay. Okay.
You know, and the national office saying, hey, don't align yourself with these people because you're going to get more people killed. We don't want to get people killed.
That's fair.
Okay?
Yep.
But folks like my dad and these other ones that I told you about, they putting it on the line already every day.
Yeah. That's
They ain't
true.
sitting in what they ain't sitting in New York, man.
Yeah.
They living down here, watching these people burn crosses, shoot up their property, threatening the hell out of them about what we gonna do to you or whatever. Burn your church down, okay? So they were in a different place, and they were ready for change. And what people did with these activist organizations like SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Congress of Racial Equality, even the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which was basically black ministers. They had more of an activist side to them. These were younger people who were willing to boycott, to go in and try and integrate a lunch counter or a library or a swimming pool, whatever it was. Okay. They willing to literally put their bodies on the line. They know what can happen. Okay. Saw what happened in Philadelphia with the 3 civil rights activists up there. They know these kind of things can happen. But they know to bring about change, you got to have some of that direct confrontation in a nonviolent mode. And that's what they were. They were nonviolent. And they took on the voting rights mammal because that was the way people like my dad saw that change could come about through the ballot box. And they got in line with that. Yeah, we need to register folks to vote. And we're going to help do that. We're going to organize these mass meetings. But at the same time, we finna have this protest march. And we're going to picket this damn Forest County courthouse for not allowing black folks to register. And we're going down there and we're going to integrate this lunch counter at Woolworth while we at it. Okay?
Yeah.
And we know it's going to be repercussions and we're going to end up in jail. And fine, we'll be in jail. So they get in jail. They start singing freedom songs. They start talking to these jailers. They run a psychological campaign on these jailers and these cops about what you're doing. And you know it's illegal. And change is coming. And we're the agents of change. You may not like us. You may hate us. But you know we right.
That's right. Yep.
So I think after a while, they didn't even want them in the jail. I was get them out of here. Damn. They just don't stop. So I don't see it as being much of a conflict. There was a resistance.
Yeah.
There was. But people like my dad now, and even Meg Evers, and these other ones say, look, we got to do things differently. And these young folks could reach young folks.
Yeah.
You go back and you look at any of those marches. I don't care what state they're from. Just look at the age of the people you see out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're
Yeah.
college age, high school seniors. That's a majority of who you see out there.
Yeah, you
Okay.
need a good balance of both.
Yeah.
NAACP's handling it on an institutional level, and
Yeah.
SNCC is grassroots level, a lot of young
Right.
people, and it's a good balance of
Right.
both. You need both.
Right.
Um,
See,
yeah.
these sneak people could come to town and they would do things that my dad and them probably would never have done. They walk through the black neighborhood handing out flyers anywhere they can find a group of people. If they were in the bar room, pool hall, barber shop, beauty salon, shoe shop, wherever, you know, they could find a group of people. They would talk about what they were doing. If they let them up in churches, and some churches let them in, other ones didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about what we're doing, and and they were persistent about it. So they reaching people, motivating people that my dad and them couldn't reach. They probably knew who my dad and these other business owners are, but they don't really identify with them like they do with these young people
Yeah.
who are more their age. That's why we need more young people moving up front, and we have a lot, but we need more of them talking to others, talking to their peers about why this is important. Now they'll listen to me, you know, especially they
Mm-hmm.
know the history of my family.
Yeah. Yep.
They
Yep.
they listen to me out of respect, okay?
That's good to hear.
But but in terms of reaching them, I can't reach them like somebody that's their age, you know, who understands their lifestyle better than I do. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, um, don't want to get too far off the subject while we're here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But
No. Yeah. This is one thing, and then I'll kind of transition into the film.
sure, sure,
So
sure.
need people to understand you were in your family's you were there when your family's home was attacked. So when people hear the Klan firebomb Vernon Dahmer's house, I don't want people to think this is some kind of abstract sentence in a history book. What do you want people to understand about what your family actually experienced that night?
Okay. I'll go into some of the details.
Okay.
So I'm 12 years old, less than a month from turning 13. I'm there in the house. I'm sleeping in a back bedroom of that house. I share that bedroom with one of my older brothers who had just returned from the military. Okay.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's another way these white power structure could get at you. Like my dad. They had this thing known as the local selective service board. They determine who got the draft notice. So you got an outspoken dad like Vernon Dahmer. All his sons getting draft notices. Okay, when they turn
Yeah.
18.
Yeah.
I got like 6 older brothers. All 6 of my brothers served in the military. 5 of the 6 were drafted.
Hmm.
2 oldest one came home on a college leave to help dad out on the farm when he got sick. They drafted them. Okay.
Jeez.
So,
Oh.
that's how they taken his security force and his labor force away from him. So by the time the Klan gets around to attacking us, you know, all of my older brothers, they're in the military. If you go online, you can pull up this picture. 4 of them come back to bury dad. They're standing there looking at the house ruins. Came back from their duty stations, stationed all over the world. Okay. So the Klan went from harassing my dad, us, in terms of shooting windows out in the store and threatening phone calls. So my dad and mama thought that all this was behind them, that it was over with since Johnson had signed the voting rights bill. No, these Klansmen had went from an harassment to a planning action stage. And that's what they were doing. And so when they rolled into the yard that night, and that's what happened, they literally rolled in, they cut their motors off up the road, turned their headlights out on their cars, and just coasted down into the yard. And they get out, and my mother hear the doors slamming, being closed. She wakes up, wakes my dad up because we're not maintaining guards anymore, and says, Vernon, I believe they got us this time. So he jumps up, grabs his guns. By that time, they already shoot. They shooting the windows out. They throwing gallons of jugs of gasoline into the house, throwing torches in behind it. So they setting the house on fire. They come there with instructions from their leader of the Klan in Mississippi to burn this guy out, which is a project, what they call a Project 3. Burn him out, and if you get a chance, do a Project 4 on him, kill him. Kill him and kill all of them, okay? Send a message to these black folks that we still do stuff in Mississippi. We still in charge, and we can do stuff. So they get into this gun battle with my dad running through the house, and I think that's depicted in the beginning of the movie. So he's running through the flames, shooting back at these Klansmen. We got plenty of guns, plenty of ammo, everything loaded, okay, with buckshot, whatever. Mm-hmm. He empty one, he just grab another. So he's running from door to windows to windows. So these Klansmen actually think it's more than one person shooting back at them. There's 2 carloads of them out there in the yard. And they get nervous. And one of them drops his pistol in the yard. Okay?
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Went off, left his pistol. This is how the FBI solves the case. It ain't what this Scorpio guy did. He did not solve the murder of Vernon Dahmer. That's the biggest lie they tell it in this damn movie, okay? Mm-hmm. All right? Can't even get that straight, okay? So my dad is inhaling these flames, and it sears his respiratory system. He's not shot. You know, he falls in this movie in the flames like he shot at something. It's bullshit. He ain't shoot Vernon Dahmer, okay? But Vernon Dahmer lighting it up for them. All right, he's in this gun battle with him. They get nervous. They got him outnumbered now. There's at least 6 or 8 of them to one guy. All right. They get in this gun battle with him, and they knew that they were going to a place where that's the kind of guy he was now. You know, you're not going to run him through the damn woods.
That's right.
He ain't that guy. All right. He ain't. He's not a criminal. All right. But you're not going to just do any old thing to him or his family. He ain't going to stand for it.
He stood on business. Yeah.
He stood on business like all of us had to down here, going back to the time when slavery ended. It's been conflicts between this Kelly settlement community and these surrounding white communities at various times. And it was known that these black folks that live over there in that community don't mess with them. They ain't messing with you. Don't mess with them. They're not scared of you. All right? You don't intimidate them. And yeah, some of them over there look like Vernon Dahmer. You can't tell if they black or white. Okay? In fact, they had a word for it. They referred to them as white N-words. Okay? They didn't call them that to their face.
Okay.
That's what you didn't do. Go up there and call him and watch what happened. Probably slap the shit out of you. What? Who in the hell you think you talking to? All right, so so they know not to mess with him. So he
Mm-hmm.
fighting this gun battle. These Klansmen actually think it's more than one person shooting back. They think that the FBI has ambushed them and finally caught up with
Man, he was giving them that
them.
kind
And
of
yeah,
stuff. Whew.
yeah, because see, the FBI know who these Klansmen are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
they got a good idea who's in the damn Klan. All right, and the FBI is having discussions with them. I'm sure about things like, one of these times we're gonna catch y'all in the wrong damn place, and
Mm-hmm.
when we do, we ain't got to worry about trying to pull you in none of these in front of some of these southern judges. They're gonna let you go. All right,
Yeah.
we're gonna take care of it right there. All right, and I think they thought. In fact, I know they did based on some of the statements that they later made to the FBI when they were trying to cut deals. They thought that the FBI had really caught up with them. They got nervous. One of them turns the headlights on his car. He wasn't supposed to do that. That triggers the other Klansmen. They get nervous, so they shooting at the Klansmen who turned their headlights on the car. They
Wow.
shooting at one another, and my dad's shooting at them. They shoot up one of the cars so bad they have to abandon it up the road about 3 or 4 miles from where
Mm-hmm.
we live.
Wow.
So all this is going on, and I'm still sleeping in the back of the house. I never woke up, but all that fire.
Ooh.
My brother didn't wake up. I don't believe that they were there 5 minutes. I don't. Okay, before they got the hell out of there. And when I woke up finally because the room was full of smoke, and I went to open the door because in winter months we had this big ranch house that had 3 chimneys in the front of it, and 3 different rooms intertwined into one chimney, 3 fireplaces. And I thought the fire had rolled out and set the house on fire. And I got up, opened the door, the flames jump in the door right at me. I slammed the door shut.
Mm.
I go out the window, I come around the house, and I can see my mother getting up off the ground, and my dad handing out my younger sister, handing out the window. I can look
Mm.
up the road, and I can see those 2 cars leaving.
Hmm.
But at one time, those Klansmen had that house completely surrounded, waiting on us to try and come out those windows so they could kill us. Okay?
Mm.
Yeah. So these are the kind of people you're dealing with. All right. That's
Man.
the mentality of them. They don't value your life, none whatsoever. Okay.
Mm.
So I was there, never heard a gunshot, but I remember what happened because I heard my mother talk about what went on in the front of that house. Okay. And I know what I saw after I got up and came around the back of the house after coming out that window. And what I saw there, and my older brother and I, we stayed on the place. But my dad, my mother, my sister, and my aunt who ran the store for my dad, she was like 90 something years old then. Okay.
Mm.
His
Yeah.
aunt, my great aunt, all of them were carried to the hospital by my aunt that lived right up the road. But this older brother and I stayed there and watched the house burn down. Other black folks in the community hearing all the gunfire, they come running. Like, what the hell's going on down here? Coming to our aid. But it's too late. It's too late. And they stand there in the road with us and watch that house burn down. And it's the middle of the winter time. It's January the 10th, 1966. I'm standing out there in my underwear. The brother standing in his underwear. But the house was burning. It was so damn hot, we wasn't even cold, you know,
Wow. Yeah.
barefooted. So, yeah, this thing is real to me about what happened. Then later that day, I get to the hospital and I watch my dad die. I watched him die.
Wow.
Okay. So this stuff is serious business to us. This is not some money-making venue project where you can take a little tidbit of something that happened,
Yeah,
over-exaggerate it, embellish it, make a hero out of a guy that wasn't a hero,
we're
create
about to
this
get into
black.
that right now too, because
Yeah.
so I need to ask you. So who
Yeah,
approached you for this film? Like, who was it? Sasha Penn, who wrote the movie? Um, was it Elegance Braden, who's the director, which I believe he's a black man,
he is. And
which is
I
troubling.
believe, I believe the first person was the executive producer, Alex
Okay,
Lebovoci, however you pronounce. I'm butchering his name
I
with
got you. Yeah.
Hammerstone Studios. Okay,
Okay.
Alex Lebovoci. Maybe that's it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So one day, I'm the most outspoken one in the Dahmer family. So this is probably over 2 years ago. I get this call right out the blue from this guy. I believe it was Alex. And he tells me that he's going to make this movie about Vernon Dahmer. And we're going to treat your dad well in this movie. And so I get all kind of calls. So I'm not saying nothing. I'm just listening, trying to figure out just who is this on the line this time? Because I get prank calls,
Yeah.
okay? Because I'm outspoken online. Anybody go to my Facebook page, you'll see I'm heavy into politics, and I'm a Democrat, a proud Democrat. And so I got all kind of people up on there, MAGA people, making statements that they can't uh, validate and being
Can never
challenged,
back.
etc.
Can
So,
never.
so I get these calls, and he's going on and on about the movie, and he says, uh, the Scorpio guy, uh, he solves your dad's murder. I'm not saying anything. I'm just letting him talk. Okay. And then he asked me, do you know who Scorpio is? So I tell him, why don't you tell me who he is? I know exactly who Scorpio is. So I think he must have got it out of Scorpio's book about how he comes down here and, the FBI can't solve this crime, but he used his investigative techniques or whatever, and he's able to solve the damn crime. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So so Alex going on and on, naming some of the people at that time he had lined up. I'm not a big movie person, but at that time he didn't have Wahlberg lined up as Scorpio. If he did, he didn't mention it. I don't think he had Giancarlo.
Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito. Uh huh. Playing
Yeah,
your dad.
John.
Way.
Right. I don't think he had him lined up. I don't know if he had this Yaya guy lined up. I don't know. But I didn't recognize none of the names. And so this is what I tell Alex. I said, Alex, I tell you what, because I'm not committing to nothing he's saying. I'm just listening to him. I said, why don't you send me some links to where your movie project is written up in the trade publications so I can read about it. And I asked him some other questions. He can't answer none of them. Okay. So his response to me is, I'll have my assistant to do that. So I never heard from him again. So I just chalked it up, another prank call.
Mm.
Somebody trying to get traction on something. And then about 8 months ago, I get a call from some people I know, and they say, hey, they making this movie about your dad. I said, what? And they give me the contact. I think it was the wardrobe person contacted him. trying to find out about what type uniforms cops wore in 60 Mississippi. And eventually I traced it back, and lo and behold, it's these folks. So, oh, really? Then also during that process, I found out that since they couldn't get any traction with me, they went and found my sister.
Mm.
And she had been working with them a year in the background, not telling me anything.
Hmm.
She brings them to the house, the black director, one of the black co-producers, to meet with my mother, who's 101 years old today. She's probably then was 100, close to 99, something like that.
That's a blessing.
Yeah, it is. And I spent a lot of time up here in Mississippi with her. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother is thinking they're going to make this movie about Vernon Dahmer. Okay. So she's interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew all along what their damn script said. Okay. So they're able to get this outlier sister of mine to sign this life rights agreement.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah. They sent them to me. The one they sent to her, one for my mama, one for me. Want us to sign them. I said, no, we're not going to sign this. They even sent me the script for me to read. And they actually think that, oh, we doing your dad justice. That's bullshit. You're using this murder to give validity to all of this embellishment, artistic license, whatever the hell you want to call it, that you're doing
Mm-hmm.
to create an entertaining movie to sell tickets. So when I get the script, I show it to my mother. So now this is what these people up to. She don't like it at all. Okay, she don't.
Yeah.
The sister, I contact her. I said, hey, have you read this script? No. I said, really? So I sent her the script. I don't know if she read it to this day. The only thing she said since then has been, well, I read this book.
Mm-hmm.
Script
Mm-hmm.
and a book ain't the same damn thing, I don't believe. And I never read this book. Okay. So she signs this thing, and Alex believes that gives him the right to do whatever the hell he wants to do. And he did that. Okay.
Sorry, let me ask. They only needed one person from the family to sign?
That's what
Yep.
he's saying. That's what Alex is saying.
Interesting how they left you out of this conversation, right, when this was
Oh,
all going
well, I'm the guy with all the hard questions. Okay.
on.
He ain't get no traction with me.
Yeah.
All right. So they feed this line of logic to this outlier sister and this one other person, niece, never was legally adopted by my brother, but just told him to use his name. You know, she could. They both signed this release. And he tells them things like, well, you know, this may not be the true story about what happened to your dad, but people are going to come see this movie. And once they see this movie, they're going to go online and word search and find out who Vernon Damon really was.
Here we go.
Here we go. It's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Yeah. People don't do that. They go to movies for entertainment value. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I told Alex, that's a bunch of bullshit and you know it. You know, he knew that. That kind of stuff ain't never going to fly with me. Okay. And so they've got this movie made. He shows up at this birthday party for my mother given by my sister. He showed up last year. I knew nothing about none of this. I really wasn't paying attention. He takes pictures with my sister, this niece, and my mother. he posted on Instagram or some damn where one of the family members finds it, talking about his loving relationship with the Dahmer family. Bunch of bullshit. Okay. Comes back this year. Again. I mean, and so I'm aware of him. And I say, I think that's the guy. He gets up, goes over there to get in line and take pictures. I go in and start a discussion with him. Had him identify himself. And he did. Then I introduced him to all my nephews. My nieces say, this is the guy that's doing this movie. This is him right here. And they said, oh, really? I said, yeah, this is the guy. And so I asked him, I said, well, why are you here, Alex, when you know we oppose this movie? Well, I was invited. So this outlier sister invited him. And so he's looking to do more PR work. He wanted to send a photographer down at one point, take pictures with all the family members and shit. Excuse my language.
No, you're
So
fine.
man, ain't doing none of that. Ain't doing none of that crap, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? We're not doing it. We see what you're up to and we don't like it. As a result of that, some of my nephews, nieces, they open up a dialogue with him, trying to have a discussion with him about this movie. And we know it's filmed. So our approach is, let's put a prologue on this thing to be ran before the movie runs about who Vernon Dahmer really was. And I think I sent it to you.
Yes, sir.
Send that press release.
Mm-hmm.
And you can read that and you see we're not really castigating what he's doing. We just make one statement that his movie is about an individual that had minimal involvement. He didn't solve this murder. That Scorpio character never testified in any trials. So Alex, he rejects it. He rejects it. Said, nope, not going to put that in there. Okay. And he comes back with his version of a disclaimer, which really don't address who Vernon Dahmer was. Okay. So he's still trying to tie validity back to him with this storyline of a black FBI agent in 1960s Mississippi. That didn't exist.
A made-up person.
Yeah, he made that one up right out of the blue. Okay. Then this Scorpio character is brought in by the FBI, and Scorpio was an FBI asset that did come in and quote unquote interview a couple of these Klansmen, but it didn't solve the case. The case was solved by the fact the guy dropped his gun in the yard. He turned himself in. He confessed. He named everybody else involved. Okay.
Gregory
Right.
Scarpa's page says allegedly helped with solving the murder. It even says allegedly. So it's
is that what they're saying?
yeah. It's it seems like they're taking the allegedly and all right, let's run with that story. Now I
Yeah.
do want to ask you
Sure.
as far as the production of the film, your sister was involved while they were shooting the film?
They carried her over to Georgia where they shot this thing over there in Atlanta area studio somewhere.
Okay.
And tried to get me to come over there.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm not coming out there. Okay. I'm not going to show up and let you use the mere fact that I showed up to try and give more validity to what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at their comments about her being there, okay, everything is designed to give validity to what they're doing. So I'm not taking no pictures with you. Oh, we'll pay for you to fly. Well, I don't need your money to fly me nowhere. Okay. I'm not coming because I don't agree with what you're doing. I have a discussion with this director, Elegance, while they're shooting it. And I said, Elkins, tell me what your storyline is or what you're doing. I'm looked at the script, all right? And he basically regurgitates what's in the script. Okay. And I said, hell no. I said, what you guys are doing, you are literally standing on the grave of my daddy. All right. To enrich themselves. All of you. And it don't matter how many black actors you hired, black director, black co-producer, black co-script writer, black production people that worked on it. It doesn't matter. Okay. The bottom line, what you're doing, you're taking his murder and adding this fictitious storyline. You do all of this embellishment to create what Wahlberg referred to in one, I think it was Entertainment Weekly article. He calls it a real revenge thriller.
I saw that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then some of them, the director, some of them talks about going to be a lot of wish fulfillment in this movie. We're going to really stick it to the Klan. Look, this ain't no Django type crap. All right.
Right. Right.
Django was very entertaining.
Yeah.
But people don't believe that. Well, most people don't. They know anything about history.
Yeah.
Okay. But it was entertaining.
Yeah.
But here, this is real. This is a real individual who literally fought and died for black folks to have the right to vote. And you want to create this kind of storyline around him. Now, if they'd have showed up and they were making a movie about really talking about who Vernon Dahmer was and what he did and the type of obstacles that he faced, personal threats to his own safety and economic threats to his business, that'd have been something different. Okay. And you can't convince me that that kind of storyline won't sell, because that's the kind of story that a lot of people need to hear about what actually went on in the 60s, especially younger generations of black folks, to know exactly what kind of crap went on, all right, in a place like Mississippi, okay? But no, that ain't what they interested in. So at this point, what I would like to see these people do, I'm talking about all these folks I just mentioned that are making money off this thing, include that prologue that was sent to Alex that he rejected, that's in that press release that I sent to you. Just put that up at the beginning of the movie. And just like it says in that press release, if you want to do something to honor Vernon Dahmer, you go register and you start voting. That's how you honor him.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we have a black director here, Elegance. I mean, as a director, does he not have the call or say to do that?
Hell, I don't know. I know who the money guy is. The money guy is Alex.
Thing is, you have Mark Wahlberg playing Greg Scarpa. Mark Wahlberg is the same person who has a history back in the day of committing hate crimes when he was a teen in Boston to a group of black kids and a Vietnamese man. So not only do you have a racist Greg Scarpa that you're trying to turn this story into a white hero story, but you also have Mark Wahlberg who has a history of hate crimes when he was a teenager.
Yep.
That is crazy.
See, that just reinforces what I'm saying. It's all about the dollars. Okay? This other stuff, about the legacy of Vernon Dahmer and all of that, I don't need nothing. Okay? It's about what kind of movie can we put together here that's going to make us all a bunch of money. And I keep talking about money because That's what it's all about with these folks. They ain't out here making documentaries. They're
Well,
not.
there's
You
another
know?
issue. There's another issue, Mr. Damer. Greg
Yeah.
Scarpa's kids are directly involved with it in terms of being their historical advisors and consultants to the production.
Yeah.
Is you're not listed as that? Is your sister listed as a historical person?
I don't know. But
Because y'all are not listed. Your family is not being listed as any of that. From what I'm saying,
really,
it's
really.
Greg Scarpa's
Uh,
kids are listed as the historical advisors and consultants to the production of this film. And there is no Dahmer representation, even if your sister was there during production and they flew her out or did whatever, they're not listing her as that.
really. I'll be damned.
So,
It doesn't surprise me, you know.
well,
Um,
I'll ask you this: was your family compensated for this film at all?
uh, no.
Okay,
Uh, as far as I know. As far as I know.
okay.
Uh, here's another discussion I
No,
had.
they're not gonna compensate you
With
either.
yeah, with one of the co-producers. You know, he sends me these releases, you know, that he won't sign. And I asked him, one of the co-producers guy, I think he's listed on that boycott petition. King Chester. Chester something. All right. I asked this. I said, Chester, are you compensating my sister in any way for her signing this agreement? No, but I will.
But I will. Okay,
But I
yeah.
will.
Uh,
So I later asked Alex when I met him face to face. So Alex, you paying my sister to be a whatever consultant, whatever? Because I'm pretty sure he paid Scorpius folks. Okay. No. I said, well, I'll be damned. Okay. Uh, then again, whatever they paying, it ain't enough. You can't buy me. Okay. So the movie public needs to understand that's just a further insult to all the stuff that we laid out. Okay. That you and I have talked about.
yeah.
The storyline, uh, who the Scorpio guy really was, um, who the lead actor playing it, his background. Okay.
Yep.
And then you know, even pay my sister. You know, jeez, it's just it goes
Well,
from bad to worse.
that's what
Okay,
I'm saying, man. Paramount is so the
and then
CEO of
Paramount,
Paramount is David Ellison. He's one of Trump's buddies. So David Ellison
absolutely,
is somebody who made sure he tied himself into Trump's power by securing
mm-hmm.
federal approval for massive media acquisitions, which is why you
Yep,
have, Paramount trying to acquire Warner Brothers.
yeah,
They fired Melissa Barea from the Scream franchise for speaking out on what was happening with Palestine and Israel because she was using
really.
the word genocide, ethnic cleansing. She was fired for hate speech and anti-Semitism. I mean,
Hmm.
September of last year, Paramount was the first major studio to speak out against actors in Hollywood to boycott Israeli film production. So it was like a whole advocacy group of film workers for Palestine with over 4,000 cast and crew members signing in support of refusing to work with Israeli production companies. And Paramount was the first to say, absolutely not. I'm against this. So Paramount has shown their hand on who they are. I
Right.
hate this happened to y'all. That's we've man, this happens far too often with black
Yeah.
stories, black families.
Right. 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 And so, what the Dahmer family is doing at this point, we're asking the movie going public, especially the folks that go in these theaters and buy tickets. And I understand that a very high percentage of those people that actually show up at theaters now are black folks. Black folks.
We showed up for
Okay.
center. You see, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They show up in big numbers. So we want to get the word out to that public that goes to know what these people did, subterfuge, uh, manipulating folks to get to their ultimate goal, uh, and ask them to support the Dahmer family by, first of all, do a word search on Vernon F. Dahmer Sr., Dahmer Sr.
Mm-hmm.
See who he really was. Okay? Then I want them to do a word search for Action Network Paramount boycott. Action Network Paramount boycott. You do that, that's going to pull up an article, a link to an online petition. And we're asking everybody to sign that online petition in opposition to what these people are doing, and then recirculate that petition to their friends and ask their friends to sign and their friends to keep doing that and over and over and over. And let's see how many names we can get on that petition and send it to Paramount, because I believe Paramount could tell this guy, say, look, we're not going to show this movie unless you put this disclaimer in here. Okay?
That's right.
I believe that they told him that because they control the real purse strings. They're the ones that got access to all these theaters.
Yep.
Okay? And if he doesn't have somebody like Paramount trying to sell this thing as an independent movie, he ain't going to get very far. Okay?
Right.
So they're the ones who could really tell him, in my opinion, that's the very least you could do for what you've done.
Yeah.
Is put that disclaimer in there that these Dahmer family wrote and sent to you about who Vernon F. Dahmer Sr. was. And we want the movie-going public to understand this. And then they can make their own choice. They can make an informed choice whether or not they want to spend money on this movie or not. But I can tell you this, Paramount and Hammerstone Studios, he ain't making one dime off of me.
Hey,
No.
look, I
Okay?
want black folks collectively to stand against this. Just like we held
Yeah.
our money away from Target, we're going to hold it away from this too.
Hold it away and say, look, we're not going for this crap.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We don't need no more of these white savior trope movies.
I had enough. Had enough.
You
Um,
did it in Mississippi Burning. You
yeah.
did it in the Ghost of Mississippi, where white guys always show up and solve everything. Hell no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hell
Yeah.
no.
It's unfortunate. I hate to hear that. And I hope that this message gets to as many people as possible. I'm going to be sharing it everywhere. I think it's a tough position when you look at somebody like Giancarlo Esposito, who's playing your dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a well-known actor in the game. We've got Yahya Abdul-Mateen, who's another black actor who's kind of rising up. He was just Emmy nominated for Wonder Man,
For
the
real.
show.
Really.
But just creating a made-up character, just to have a black cop
Yeah.
alongside him, and it's supposed to be like they're buddies and like a buddy cop thing, revenge tale.
Mhm.
I mean, it's so your dad in the beginning of the film is where we have the incident that happens at the house. He dies
Yeah.
in the flames, and you heard a gunshot. It was supposed to be a gunshot, that made it seem like he got shot.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay.
Yeah. When I saw that trailer,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, when I asked Alex about it, oh no, that wasn't a gunshot. So it sure as hell sounded like it.
Yeah, you can't believe him though.
No,
I can't believe it.
you can't, because they're a slippery bunch. Now I'm telling you,
Yeah.
they're kind of slippery.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pin them down. Like, here's another little tidbit. So in my last discussion with Chester about this movie. And I said, at the very least you guys could do is put a disclaimer, prologue in here about who Vernon Dahmer was. And he agreed to that verbally. So I sent it to him in writing. And I got the text. I got text for this stuff. Messages. Either emails or texts. I got them. All right. So if they want to deny it, I got it in writing.
Got the
Okay.
receipts. Yep.
You're damn right. I got the receipts. Okay. Never responded. That's how they operate. If they can't get you on board with where they want you to be, they don't respond. Because they know where they headed. They know what they're going to do. But if we send this message through this petition, and by not supporting this movie, these Hollywood types, they're going to get the message. No more of these white savior trope movies. They're morally wrong, and they're repulsive as hell. Especially when you're basing it upon a real life guy. My dad, Vernon F. Dahmer Sr. He was buried behind the Shady Grove Baptist Church in the Kelly settlement, Forest County, Mississippi. Just get your foot off in his grave. Leave him alone. You like the storyline, you could have picked it up and put it in another genre. And left all of us out of it.
I hope that we can find another film and another way to do this. So that's something that we should definitely all look into. Another way, just scrap this, not support it, and find another movie that we can make, even if it just needs to be a documentary, something, get it going. Yeah, that's we'll find something else.
Right. Not to cut you off, but there are plenty of documentaries out there about my dad.
Yeah.
You go online and search, you're going to pull them up. And, one of the things I've been told by people in the know, say, look, if you guys had written a book, it'd have made it really tough for them to do this stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm writing that book right now.
There we go.
Okay?
I love to hear that. Okay.
To make sure no more of these opportunistic type movies are made about my dad. And so that's where we are on this thing. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I appreciate you carving out the time to sit down with me. I'm going to ask you one final question before we go.
Sure. Go ahead.
Your father's final message was, if you don't vote, you don't count. When you look at Mississippi nearly 60 years later, what does that sentence mean to you right now at this very moment that you want to leave to the people listening?
Here's my message to America and Mississippi. We are at another pivotal point in the history of this country. The civil rights movement was a pivotal point. Brought about a lot of changes. And over the years, America has digressed from that to where we are today. All thing I can say to folks is you need to go register and vote, because in this upcoming November elections, this is another pivotal point in the history of this country. Okay, the outcome of that election can set the path for what's going to happen in America for who knows how long. It could be another 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Okay, remember, at the end of forced Reconstruction, at the end of the Civil War, in about 1878, after Lincoln was assassinated, the South got back in control. Union Army left. Then you got Jim Crow, segregation, the Klan, all this terrorism stuff, and all of that lasted in America until the mid 60s, civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
So it took 80 years or more to reverse at that time. And I, for one, I don't want to leave that burden on future generations. So I guess my message to people is, well, it is my message. When you go and register and you vote now, you are voting for your kids, you're voting for your grandkids, you are voting for kids that hadn't even been born yet, to make sure that they are grow up in a world, come into a world where they can have equal opportunity based upon their ability. Okay? And not to be held back just because of the complexion of your skin. We don't need no more of that in America. I lived through it. People in my generation, we lived through it. And I can tell you right now, we do not want to go back to that world. Segregation wasn't that great for black folks. Some younger generations seem to think it was. It wasn't. Why? Because we didn't control the money. Okay?
Tell them.
The white community controlled the money. They determined how much money they were going to put in that black school.
Mm-hmm.
They determined whether or not your streets was going to be paved or whether you were going to even have running water. Okay? They made those decisions. Black folks didn't. We didn't have no say until we got the right to vote. And that's when things started to improve for black folks. And I know a lot of younger generation, they just take it for granted that, hey, you're always going to have black elected officials, black whatever. Hey, you may not have any more black police, black chiefs of police. See, back in the 60s, when they started putting blacks on the police force, the only people they could police was other black folks. They couldn't arrest nobody white.
Yeah, that's right.
They couldn't. They could
Yep.
not. So, hell no. We don't need to go back there. We do not. So, yeah, get up, go register and vote. If you're a registered voter now, make sure your name is still on the active voter list. You need to make sure because they got things like this shield law in Mississippi.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Other southern states got their version of that. Trump is trying to push this SAVE law through Congress. He probably gonna get it done.
Yeah.
Okay. All that's designed is to keep people away from the polls who gonna vote against him. And I'm telling you, between now and the election day, the closer we get, you can expect some more shenanigans to take place in America, where he can maybe declare some type of martial law in certain areas. I don't put it past them. Try and declare that where you have large black populations like in inner cities. Some of these cities in the South, like Jackson, Mississippi, New Orleans, Little Rock, Memphis, Atlanta, okay, to keep black folks out the polls. So get yourself prepared, folks, because between 9 November, I expect some crap to happen. I really do.
I do too.
You know?
Unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah. No.
And
It's
don't misscrew my words. Not to cut you off, don't misscrew my words. I'm not calling for any type of open rebellion. All right? What I'm saying, get yourself registered to vote now. Don't wait till the last minute. You need to have all this done by at least beginning of October. So you got about 30 days.
Yep.
Got to get yourself together and no excuses about what you need to be doing.
That's right. I love this episode. So important to vote. Y'all heard it from Vernon Dahmer's son himself, Mr. Dennis. It was a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, the key takeaway, get out there and vote. We just learned about Vernon Dahmer, and also do not support this film by any means. By any means, do not
By
support
any means. Hey,
By any means, do not support it. By any means.
you know where they got that title from, right? That's
Oh,
Malcolm X.
oh yeah, that's us. Yeah, I peeped it.
Yeah,
I peeped it by
yeah.
any means necessary. I peeped it. I'm like, with Mark Wahlberg on the. No, come on, man.
They tied all this together to attract black folks. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
that's what they
that's
up
why they
to.
grabbed up Yahya Abdul. Like, it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's a rough look, man. Well,
Hmm.
ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening to the Real for Real podcast. It's your boy Kevin. Once again, do not support this film. Till next time. All right.
This has been the Real for Real podcast with Kevin, Trevor, and Isaiah. Thanks for tuning in. Keep up with the conversation by following us on our social media. On Instagram, you can find us at @thereal_for_real, and on TikTok, you can find us at the Real for Real podcast. Be safe, be blessed, and we'll catch you next time.